Avery, whose show is this? And we're live. Welcome everybody here to the Lakers Lounge podcast. I'm Anthony Irwin, Senior Lakers Insider for Clutch Points, and today on the show, we have a ton of questions to get to. I am back from vacation, still wearing a vacation shirt because I don't want to be back from vacation. We have a princess over here who just celebrated a birthday yesterday, and I promised her for her birthday she would answer one of those questions. So we'll do that really quick. And then, yeah, like I said, we have a couple iTunes questions. I asked Twitter. We got questions from there. And then over the course of the show, if you guys have any questions in the leave them in the comment section, and I will get to as many of them as I possibly can before the show ends. All right. And I'm going to be here a while. So buckle in, strap in, all of that good stuff. Miles is sound asleep. So I'm going to just basically record until he wakes up and see where that takes us. So, Avery, you ready to go? Yeah. All right. Avery's ready to go. I'm going to go a little out of order here so that Avery can answer her question. Ender Ho asked, wife and I are visiting the Orange County area in October. It'll be her first time in the States. When you visit, what are your must visit places, food or otherwise, you make sure to hit up? Also, why don't you podcasters and analysts shows use percentage of the cap to talk about salaries? All right, I'll answer that second one in a second. But what I'm going to do is use that first part of the question to ask you, Avery, what was your favorite part of our trip to California?
I liked when I got a lot of money.
She got birthday. She got birthday money because we threw a little birthday party for her on Saturday, and that was her favorite. You didn't like the pool?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, so you liked the pool, you liked the money. How about the aquarium? We went to the aquarium.
I also liked it.
Okay. How about all the friends and family that you saw?
I liked it.
But the money was still the best part?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, that's Avery. Thank you very much, Avery. Can you go? I love you, kiddo. That went better than I hoped. All right. So first question here comes from this is from the iTunes mailbag, which quick reminder, please hit that subscribe button, please hit that like button, please hit all of the nice buttons, especially now that you just saw Avery. If you guys are listening in the form of the pod on the RSS feed, please hit that 5-star review button wherever it is that you get your pods. And then the best way, as I always say, to get your topic covered here on the show is to leave it in the form of a 5-star review. That way I can find it real quick and answer your questions. So the first one coming from that mailbag, the iTunes mailbag. Sorry, I had to kind of adjust while Avery was here. But the first one here comes from A Gear 40, late July questions. The NFLPA started doing team report cards a couple years ago, grading teams on various categories from facilities, training camp, and even ownership. And if the NBA did this, where do you think the Lakers would rank compared to the rest of the league? What would be their best and worst graded categories? Also, unhinged trade idea. Kawhi for LeBron straight up. Clippers complete their all geriatric team, and the Lakers actually get Kawhi this time. Which fan base is more angry? All right. So the first question about the NFLPA's grading system and grading project is actually a really cool one. Now, the NFLPA appears to suck and appears to have been really corrupt for a little while. Glad that they, shouts to Pablo Torre and everybody reporting on that situation to get to the bottom of that. The players actually owe a debt of gratitude there, as I think their players union has underserved them for decades, and I think will finally kind of get out of its own way. But anyway, the NFLPA started doing team report cards a couple of years ago, and it's been a really cool look into how players feel about various organizations, and also kind of shines a light on some of those organizations that don't spend on things that fans don't really think about. Now, as far as like how the Lakers would do if the Lakers were also graded on these things compared to the rest of the league, a general rule of thumb is the Lakers spend on stuff that their stars will or may use. Their plane is, was really good for a really long time. Now I think everybody in the league uses roughly the same type of plane. Their training facilities are excellent. Their in-house staff that helps work with players is really, really good. Their PR team is extremely player friendly, something that those players really seem to like. I think in terms of like how players feel about playing for the Lakers, for the most part, I would say they probably really, really like it. They stay at nice hotels. They everything again that the players specifically utilize. If the NBPA was to vote on these things or grade the Lakers, the players union is probably pretty happy with the Lakers. Now, where I think the Lakers would fall behind is on stuff that doesn't directly involve the players, and specifically the stars. Their facility is very player friendly, but it doesn't leave a whole bunch of room for their organizational staff, and it's something that they're going to have to literally expand that building and redesign that building to fill it with the staff that Guggenheim is probably going to get ready to fill it with. Their G League stuff, I believe, falls a little behind compared to the rest of the league. And specifically the Clippers, right? Raj said he went to a game, a Clippers G League game, and was kind of blown away by the facility there compared to the Lakers G League team, their G League affiliate, which I believe just plays in their practice. They convert their practice gym into their South Bay Lakers gym, and doesn't, that's just not it's not an arena. So there are only so many people who can go to those games, which, by the way, makes it a great experience if you want to go watch the South Bay Lakers. But it's one of those spots where the Lakers have kind of underspent. There are some really funny stories about catering for their employees that again aren't players, that the Lakers that are kind of floating out there, where the Lakers will order only so much food or make food available to only a certain percentage of on-site staff. Pete has told stories of being asked to go work in the kind of lunch area, or if it's particularly busy at the team facility, some people will have to work in that central lunch area, which for some members of the organization might be okay. For others, makes it really difficult. So yeah, I would say if this was strictly a players union type of report card, the Lakers would do really, really well. If this was, I didn't even talk about the assistant coaches who are underpaid, not just in terms of the rest of the league, but also in given how expensive it is to live in LA. We've talked about that plenty. So the NBPA, they would probably give a really good report card to the Lakers, but everybody else, that's associated with the team, I don't think they are necessarily as thrilled. By the way, I'm back obviously at home, which means I don't have to make my own sounders anyway. The second half of that question, unhinged trade, Kawhi for LeBron straight up, who would be angrier? Lakers fans. I would hope Lakers fans would be beside themselves because Kawhi just can't stay healthy. He's not as good as LeBron even when he's healthy. And like if this was to happen, I would demand that the Clippers give up more stuff to make it worth the Lakers' while. That's not even close. LeBron at 50 will probably be healthier than Kawhi right now. So it's not. Yeah, that's not even really a discussion. The next question here comes from Viva Exceptionalism. Anthony, thanks for keeping the content coming for all these years since Team Tank, and the shows keep getting better and better. Thank you very much. I have two questions. One, what is the value of the Lakers' expiring contracts if the Lakers won't take on longer-term salary? Isn't that the whole concept? Two, can you explain how salary matching works versus trade exceptions? Thanks so much. All right, so I should probably reach out to Yossi about that one, or Yossi. My wife has a friend named Yossi, and I have a friend named Yossi. So anyway, but I'll get to the bottom. I'll share what I can about trade exceptions and matching salaries and stuff like that. But as far as like the value of uh expiring contracts when you aren't interested in taking on longer term money, it is less valuable, is kind of the simplest answer. I would love for the Lakers to rethink that stance on some of these players. I think most notably probably Andrew Wiggins, because if you take on Andrew Wiggins' deal, it just becomes a $30 million expiring contract next year on a player that is still pretty good. But yeah, like if you like normally, it just, I guess it kind of depends on where a team is and how to use expiring contracts. So if you're a bad team and you have expiring money, you would send out that that expiring money and take on a bad contract and get paid to do so, right? Kind of like renting out cap space, but it's renting out future cap space in that case. So if you're a bad team, that's another revenue stream, asset revenue stream that you could kind of create for yourself. And it's something that I still think even good teams should consider doing, or mediocre to good teams should consider doing, where you take on a player who is still pretty good, but maybe a little overpaid, or their contract runs for a year longer than their current team would like. You send out an expiring contract. You bring back a more productive player. Maybe you get paid to do so, and as such, you help your roster, and you also, add an asset or two to your cupboard, I guess, your asset cupboard. So that's one way that I would say the Lakers could use their expiring contracts, is to look around the league and try to find a player who is on a contract that maybe that team doesn't really love, and then try to send out Maxey and Gabe and bring back, because like the thing with it might be a little harder to do with Gabe, because he was actually fairly productive last year. Whereas it should be relatively easy to do with Gabe, because he didn't play basically hardly at all last year. And I don't think is going to play a ton this year either. So if you send out Gabe's contract and you bring back a player who is making roughly as much as Gabe, but has like an extra year on that contract, you would then be able to maybe add a second rounder, which the Lakers could really use a few second rounders, and then again bring back a player who might actually help you this year, in direct comparison to Gabe, who in like I would say 75 to 85% chance he will not help the Lakers this year, maybe even higher. So that's how I would kind of look at it here for the Lakers. And then, yeah, outside of that, and this is kind of a more practical application of this question. What is the value of the Lakers expiring contracts? Well, it presents a threat to Milwaukee, to Denver, that, hey, look at our books. They're awful clean. Just in case Giannis isn't all that happy, here's some expiring money that we could send your way if you do decide to just completely tear down. Now, unfortunately, the way that a lot of these superstar trades go is you have a stubborn owner who doesn't want to immediately go from the amount of revenue that superstar generates to a teardown, and the lack of revenue that those teardowns tend to generate. In those cases, they tend to say, nope, we're not gonna rebuild. We aren't gonna tear down. We're still gonna be competitive. And then, as I've said here, over the, I don't know, for about as long as I've had a show, I've always said, like, reality is gonna hit you really hard in the face one way or another. So you can either protect yourself, put your glove up, or get ready to roll with the punch, or you're going to get hit that much harder whenever reality sets in. And, I think whenever or if Milwaukee does wind up trading Giannis, it's going to be interesting to see if this pun is not intended, and I'm rolling my eyes at it as I'm saying it, but it's going to be interesting to see if Milwaukee bucks that trend. Yeah, I saw it coming in my head, and I was like, "Ah, God, well, it's too late now." Um, but it's going to be interesting to see if Milwaukee continues on along that same trend, where their owner trades Giannis, says we aren't going to suck right away. We got this. We're still going to be good. Or if they do, if they allow, they prep for reality to set in, and they say, all right, it didn't work out. How do we pivot? And normally the way that you should pivot is with expiring contracts, so that you can have cap space to take bad contracts into that cap space as soon as you can. You would want, a bunch of draft picks if possible, or you would want young talent right now. Unfortunately, if Giannis does demand a trade right now, the Lakers just don't have those things. So the Lakers would probably prefer that Giannis plays out this season and then goes into the following season, kind of looking around. But if it does happen as soon as the season, and we had Sham's report on this, by the way, I told you guys, get ready for the year or two of Giannis to the Lakers rumors to start. That was step one, was Sham saying, yeah, Giannis is still looking at the Bucks. He's still looking at around the league. He's had some of those conversations with the Bucks. That was step one. I warned you guys for step one. It happened 48 hours later. Now, the next step, which I don't think will happen as soon as 48 hours from now, but the next step is going to be, all right, if he isn't as thrilled with Milwaukee, where is he perhaps looking to go? The Lakers now have Luka on that extension. And by the way, they have Luka on his extension, and it is a discount. So they're going to be looking to bring in Giannis while they have Luka on a discount. And then eventually they'll go above whatever apron they have to go to keep that team that they're able to put around Luka and Giannis. They're going to look to go above the aprons, whether that's first and the second, we'll see, but at least the first. They'll go over the first to keep that team, if it's successful, together, and then we'll see what that finally looks like. But I told you, I warned you guys on Saturday. what that conversation is going to look like, and what to watch for now that Luka is extended. It was funny. I listened to Simmons and Lowe. This was before my vacation. I was mowing the lawn, and they were both making the argument for the Clippers for Giannis in the next couple of years, and how the Clippers are doing everything that they can to line themselves up for Giannis. And the whole time I was listening, I was like, so you're not going to talk about the Lakers here? We're just not gonna. And I was just waiting the whole time. There's another team in LA that has a much greater track record of landing guys like Giannis while they're still in their prime, and it never happened. But yeah, that was the first step. Was Shams reporting the other day, and now we'll see over the course of the next year, maybe year or two, how that story develops. And by the way, it might develop to a place where Giannis says, you know what, I'm happy here. My family is here. I saw what happened with Dame. I don't want to leave Milwaukee unless I know for a fact I'm going to win a championship, and I don't really see that out there for myself. Maybe that's how this plays out too. But regardless, as far as like the practical use of the Lakers expiring contracts right now, it's to keep their books clean so that Milwaukee has to fear them whenever Giannis hits free agency. Now, to be completely honest, I don't think he will hit free agency. I think what he'll look to do is extend and then get traded to maximize his earning potential. But regardless, if the Lakers keep those books clean and then Giannis extends and then they try to trade for him, they'll have cap space to trade for him for, or expiring contracts to trade for him for, or Rui's extension, or Austin's extension. It was interesting. I saw some report floating around today about how the Lakers are likely to extend Austin at that like $30 million a year rate. And it was funny because like, why is this a thing again? We've been talking about this a ton anyway. I don't know why this is a thing. And then I was like, oh yeah, that's right. It's August 6th, and everybody needs something to talk about. And those aggregating accounts, they need those Elon bucks. So they're going to re-aggregate that. And so basically, if the Lakers are going to they'll have Vando probably still on their books. They'll have Luka on their books. They'll have Austin's extension on their books. We'll see if Rui ever signs an extension. I would probably anticipate no. And then we'll see what kind of contract LeBron wants to take if the Lakers are going to keep him around. And then you take a look at what the books look like outside of that, and you kind of move forward that way. But yeah, it's a good question. Exceptionalism asked a really good question there, and it is kind of a kind of fatal flaw to the Lakers' current approach. And this is why I always say that like those two timeline approaches often wind up serving neither timeline, because you either commit to winning right now while you have LeBron and Luka and an underpaid DeAndre Ayton, and underpaid Austin Reeves, and underpaid Marcus Smart. And you see what you can do right now, and you fully commit to that, and if you fully commit to that, you're going to give yourselves inherently a better chance at winning now. Or if the focus is positioning yourself for Giannis, well, then you would talk to LeBron about what a trade would look like. You would field offers for Austin, and you would field offers for Rui, and you would completely clear your books of any long-term salary. You would include a pick to get rid of Vando, so that your books are completely clean, and completely commit to the Giannis plan. The problem is the way that they're kind of operating right now. They've done as good a job as I think you could have possibly hoped for this offseason of handling both timelines. But what they haven't really done is absolutely succeeded in either regard. So, and just ask Warriors fans how they feel about two timeline situations too. It doesn't work for anybody. All right, let's see if we have any comments from the wow. Shohei with 8 Ks through 4 and has a homer. So normally I would have the Dodgers game over there, but in moving my office around a little bit, we knocked over what is essentially like a 3-year-old TV, and I no longer have my TV in here. But thank you for the update. Shohei's insane. He's the best. I think you could really make an argument that Shohei is better at baseball than any athlete has been at their sport ever. Tiger, Michael, LeBron, whoever. Whoever you want to say in football. You can't even say that with football because their best players only play the one side of the ball. So I think you kind of have to take football out of the equation. And I truly believe that as far as like mastery of the sport, Shohei is better at baseball than any other athlete has been at their sport ever. You would have to go to like individual sports, right? So Tiger, I think, has a close claim for it. Federer, I think, has a close claim for it. But yeah, he's just incredible. Absolutely incredible. All right, so let's go to the Twitter mailbag. All right, so this was I'll answer this. I was going to answer it closer to the end of the show, but I'll go ahead and answer it now. So Swipa, who covers the Nuggets really well, and has a few other platforms that are all entertaining. He asked, "What are your goals for the rest of 2025?" So I asked, "Mine are the Lakers," and he asked for my goals for 2025. So I'll say this personally. I want to travel more than I have so far this year. And we'll see if we'll be able to do that. I want to take so my kids, I grew up out there in Southern California where we could go to Arrowhead, or we could go to Big Bear, or we could go to Tahoe, or we could go to Mammoth. And I just, that was just assumed that would just be how I lived forever. Then we moved here to Austin, and it struck me over the last couple of years while we've had the kids, it's like, damn, there are no mountains that I could take these kids to. And it's 4 hours to get to the Gulf. So like, I would like to take the kids so they can go up into the mountains and they can see snow in the mountains and stuff like that. It's a relatively easy trip to, Denver and stuff. And I will be going to Denver over the course of the season because I want to do a show there with the DNVR guys. But yeah, that's one of the things. I have like flirted with the 200-pound mark for basically the last like 3-4 years, and I would like to dip under that. And I think right now I'm at about 13. Well, I'm back from vacation, so I'm probably a little heavier. I haven't weighed myself since I got back, but I'm in that 210 area, and I would like to see if I could lose some of those pounds before the end of the year, and see if I can dip under 204, or at least give myself a fighting chance to get there with a New Year's resolution. So that's the second one. And then the third one is, and I won't be able to accomplish it here in 2025. But the third one is eventually I want to make this whole thing big enough so that Jen doesn't have to work. So those are I won't do that in 2025, obviously, but that's kind of an eventual goal. Now for this show, I'll go ahead and say this. Great Western Forum went really well, so we're going to record more of those, and with recording more of those, we're trying to put together a live version of that show in person they're in LA. So keep an eye out for that. I'm working with Odyssey. They're helping me a ton. They might even provide a stage and a setting to be able to do that there in LA. So we'll keep an eye out for that. Talk to Jovan, talk to Pete, and we'll try to put that together. Obviously, talk to other guests if we do it live. Yeah, I think with those few things, that's kind of what the rest of 2025 is looking like. And I know y'all don't really care particularly much about my personal goals, but a live Great Western Forum show would be pretty legit. And then also like whenever, because I'm going to be traveling, I think a lot more with reporting and with this show and stuff. I would like to, if I'm back in LA, set up a kind of meetup for this show for the lounge community, and see what that looks like as well. All right. At Bruno Corral _ writes, the Lakers scouting department has been deservedly praised for hitting on the late picks, but nobody ever criticizes them for missing on 3 straight second overall picks. Do you agree with this affirmation? And why do you think this happens? So I actually think they should be taking more shit for screwing up, like basically arriving at a place where you wasted 2 first-round picks rather than trading them for win now help as LeBron would have wanted. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. But yeah, the missing on 3 straight second overall picks. All right, so I don't think we can say they missed. Julius Randle, I believe, made an all-star team, didn't he? But at the very least, he helped bring the Knicks, out of the obscurity that they were at before he got there. So I think Randall has been a pretty good. Oh no, he wasn't second overall, was he? No, he was 7th. So D'Angelo Russell, Brandon Ingram, and Lonzo Ball. Lonzo's tough because his body just gave out. And I think he got really bad advice from his dad and from his people around him. And he did that whole big baller brand thing where his shoes, I think he has come out and said that the shoes impacted, his ability to stay on the court, which is a bummer. You get bad advice and you only live life once, and you only have those opportunities early in your career once. And he seems to have messed that up. But still, when he was there in New Orleans, he was maybe one of the better, like an elite volume 3-point shooter, while also being an elite defensive presence there. Got him a huge contract. So I think, like, for second overall picks, is he transcendent? Is he franchise altering in the way that you might hope for a second overall pick? No, but I don't think he's an outright miss. We'll see what he's capable of this year. Now that he's healthy again, really rooting for him. I was hoping that the Lakers would buy low on him, but they're very afraid of players with injury problems, so they avoided that. So I wouldn't call him a miss. D'Angelo Russell made an all-star team, albeit as an injury reserve, and has taken the Brooklyn Nets to the playoffs. Part of why we see him as a miss is because the Lakers salary dumped him, and I don't think they salary dumped him just for basketball reasons. Remember, Magic Johnson took over, and I think would have preferred to employ Byron Scott. Actually, I won't even say I think. I was told that he would have preferred to employ Byron Scott, but Scott's reputation and relationship with the Lakers fan base at that time had eroded to a point where he was not employable any longer. And Scott, and Magic Johnson both blamed D'Angelo Russell for that, and they shipped him out of there. So had D'Lo just stuck around, because remember, the return on him was Brooke Lopez, who they wound up letting walk for nothing the following offseason. And the reason he walked was because that relationship between Lopez and the Lakers had gotten so toxic that he was just done. He, I believe, took a minimum or a really cheap exception in Milwaukee. So that was a bummer. And then they also took on the Nets took on Mozgov's contract, which I think eventually allowed the Lakers to sign LeBron, which, kind of helps. So that's worth noting as well. But when he got to Brooklyn, he made an all-star team and got the Nets to the playoffs. So again, I don't know that he's an outright miss, even though he again wasn't a franchise altering player as you would maybe hope for with your second overall pick. But I think a lot of that comes down to that the organization just not being very good at developing guys, whether that be Lonzo, whether that be D'Lo, whether that be any of the guys while they were there. And then the third one is Ingram, who was traded for Anthony Davis. And in that sense, right there, I don't think he's a miss. And then, I think watch for him potentially making an all-star team there in the really bad East with the Raptors now that he's hopefully fully healthy. But I think he won comeback player of the year or most improved player or whatever the name of the term, the award was. So he's an award-winning player at the very least. And I don't know that I would call him an outright miss or a bust, obviously, definitely not a bust. But again, he didn't transform the organization. So I would probably say like it's not great that those, like, you would have preferred to have one of those guys good enough to just trade for Anthony Davis on their own rather than having to package Ingram and Lonzo and players on top of that. So I guess to that extent, that was a bit of a bummer, but I don't think any of them are outright misses. Now, we want to talk about misses. Jalen Hood-Schifino, right? That's an outright miss. That is squandering a first-round pick. We'll see what happens with Dalton Connect, but if Summer League is any indication, they outright squandered that first-round pick as well. And that was at a time where you could have traded those guys. I'll have to go back and see what the potential haul for those 2 first-round picks could have potentially been, or one of those first-round picks could have potentially been. And obviously that would have, you just, when you have as few assets as the Lakers have, you can't squander top shelf assets like first round picks in the way that they have the last couple of drafts. So, yeah, those sting. Those are bigger misses. And I think we can offer context, right? Whether the scouting department was overruled and Jalen Hood-Schifino was taken instead of Cam Whitmore, however you want to frame that, it doesn't matter. End of the day, the pick was Jalen Hood-Schifino, and he's not an NBA player. And then Dalton Connect is kind of heading in that direction potentially as well. We'll see how he looks this year. And those are 2 first-round picks that you could have turned into guys who would have really helped. Like, you could have turned that pick into another center that would have made it so you weren't starting Jackson Hayes last year in the playoffs. You could have turned that first-round pick into Dorian Finney-Smith a little bit sooner, so you wouldn't have had to build that plane on the fly. You could have turned that first-round pick into, I think all it took eventually was to get Cam Johnson. All it took was a first-round pick. You could have done that. Or, Bruce Brown or Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Like they could have, Alex Caruso didn't even go for a first-round pick. So if you would have just used that first to bring back Caruso, how much better of a spot would you be in right now than having used those picks on Jalen Hood-Schifino and Dalton Connect? That's where it stings, right? So I do think that the scouting department, just like all aspects of this organization, they're all under a microscope over the next few years, next couple of years, even as Guggenheim figures out what kind of organization they actually bought and what kind of help that organization needs when they take over. All right, this is a good question. At Bashir_1 writes, thoughts on the difference in fan base reaction when Luka says he wants to win now versus when LeBron says it. It's that McDonald's meme, right? like or you know, where you know, there's one image of a McDonald's worker and it's like inspiring, look at this kid get after it, yada yada yada, and then it's another person working at McDonald's and it's like deadbeat, bad job, you know, what is this burning? Yeah, R Jones flirting versus harassment, right? Like in memes we're talking about there, jokes, but yeah, I truly don't get it. Like even when I reported that bit about LeBron being frustrated with the organization being kind of directionless the last few years, that's the same criticism that most fans have of the organization the last few years. Like it was just so weird to see people. Well, first, you know, anytime I get aggregated, you get all kinds of people going ape shit because God forbid somebody who literally just spoke to, like, had an NBA president of basketball operations on the record uh last week. Apparently, you know, like I shouldn't be aggregated according to those people. So you had that reaction first. God, stop it. He's not a source. Man, you guys are idiots. And then, you know, the second half of it was like, oh, shut up, LeBron, stop whining, this and that. And it's like, you what? And then when Dave McMenamin reports that Luka wants to win right now, everybody holds him up as like, see, look at the prodigal son. Look at this guy. Like this guy just gets it. He knows what it takes to be a Laker. And I'm just sitting there scratching my head the whole time. Like, did y'all just not want LeBron to win? Like, is that what this came down to? And I truly believe that there is a faction of Kobe stans out there, not Lakers fans, but Kobe stans specifically, who never wanted LeBron to work out as a Laker and never wanted LeBron as a Laker in the first place. Again, my mom is one. I just spent 5 days with her, and anytime LeBron came up, her eyes just straight to the back of her head. And it's just like, why? You know, at the end of the day, he's a Laker. At the end of the day, he really helped the Lakers. When he signed with the Lakers, they were at the absolute low point of organizational history. And he, within a couple of years, got that team a championship. So all of this animosity, yes, is it frustrating year in, year out and now this summer, right? I also think part of it too is some fans want to break up with LeBron before LeBron breaks up with them. I think that's a natural instinct. So, you know, whatever. But I truly think that like the loudest of people who got the angriest at LeBron for saying he wants to win right now, being for entering his year 41 season, you know, those fans, probably a lot of Kobe fans in there. Secondly, and to be fair to Lakers fans here, if you're LeBron and you have an opportunity to take a pay cut to make things easier on your team, winning right now, and yet skip out on that opportunity, right or wrong, kind of hard for you to say, making 50 something $million a year, oh, well, why can't you guys figure out a way to win? That's a lot of money on the books for a 41-year-old, again, superstar, but still a 41-year-old NBA player. So I think there are aspects of all of these takes that I think have some fairness to them. I think for the most part, I'm going to I side with LeBron over the organization because, as we just talked about a second ago, that organization has squandered 2 straight first-round picks, it appears. And that's got to be tough. Anthony Davis, his closest friend on the team, somebody he considers a brother, was asking for another center, and that request went completely ignored over the last few years. And you know, if you're gonna watch your friend have those requests go ignored as well, And by the way, that friend is as it was positioned at the time, he was kind of the heir in waiting to the Lakers after LeBron went away. However, he was going to go away, and AD somehow didn't have the organizational weight to get a request filled. So, yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to uh, in terms of like why Lakers fans feel a certain way about LeBron. I don't think a lot of it is very logical. I think LeBron has overall been a really good Laker. He offered to give the Lakers a pay cut last year, and the Lakers had opportunities to make good on that pay cut and weren't able to convince Klay Thompson to come and play for the team he grew up rooting for. So, at the end of the day, and look, LeBron also saw, having watched Anthony Davis not get a viable backup center for years. LeBron probably saw the way that played out and kind of did the math and said, well, now I'm second fiddle. And we know how the Lakers treat second fiddles around here. I'm going to take and by the way, he completely deserves the $53 million he's going to make or whatever it is because of the contract that he just made and because of the revenue that he generates for the Lakers. And for the city of Los Angeles, like that dude deserves every red cent that he should be paid or that he is contractually owed. That's fine. It's it's just a lot. It's a nuanced issue, but end of the day, I think for the people who applaud Luka for saying that he wants to win now and then roll their eyes whenever LeBron said the same thing over the last few years. To those people, I say, like, might be time to look in the mirror a little bit and wonder why you had those two very different responses to the exact same request. Also, a fun, I don't have tinfoil with me. Let's see. Yeah. All right. Here's my tinfoil hat. Here's a fun theory. Dave McMenamin is the one who floats out that Luka really, really, really wants to win right now, right? A fun tinfoil theory here is that Clutch said, "Hey, man, I heard that Luka really, really wants to win now. We obviously do too. So how do we get LeBron and Luka aligned on this issue?" By the way, Luka and LeBron have been aligned all summer. I've talked to you guys all summer about how Luka and LeBron very early into the offseason were talking about how the two of them could fit together better than they did last year. That's the kind of thing that we should want to hear. And again, it's weird what does or doesn't get aggregated. That shit matters, man. The fact that Luka and LeBron are excited to play together, even while LeBron might have been frustrated over some of the win now moves that he felt the Lakers should have made that they didn't. The fact that he's still excited to play with Luka all the same. And my colleague at Clutch Points, Brett Siegel, said that LeBron has been in contact with some Lakers officials over the course of the summer, and they say that he's excited to come into next season as well. So yeah, I think it's going to be really, I think a lot of people's opinions on LeBron are going to change as soon as this season starts. And I truly believe unless injuries happen, if injuries happen, then they aren't deep enough to withstand very many injuries. But once this season starts, and if this team is relatively healthy, I think they're going to be really good. And everybody's stances on LeBron, I think, will probably go back. Fans are fickle. Those same Kobe fans, by the way, who hate LeBron right now, they booed Kobe once upon a time. Remember when Kobe demanded a trade, told Stephen A. Smith he would play on Pluto? First game of the season, they booed him during opening introductions on opening night. And then by the end of the game, because Kobe's Kobe and because he's really bleeping good or was really bleeping good, they were chanting MVP for him. So end of the day, all of this stuff, it's August, it's late July. The last time we saw these guys, they were getting unceremoniously, booted from the playoffs in 5 games by a Minnesota Timberwolves team that got their asses kicked too. There's a lot going on here. But if at the start of the season, this team looks as good as I think that they can or will look, then I think a lot of people will change their tunes on LeBron. Dodger Blue writes, oh, hold on. Let me check to see if we have any comments in here. All right. I'm going to go back to Twitter then. Ike, who is at Trip Before C, besides the Lakers being better with LeBron this year, wouldn't they want him there just to usher Luka hopefully into his championship window like Dwayne did with LeBron? Yeah, I think it's really beneficial to have a second superstar who has been there a little while to show the ropes to the younger superstar at the beginning of that tenure, the second superstar's tenure. First and foremost, LeBron can tell Luka, hey man, this is what this fan base expects. And I'm not saying that is definitely what happened. I'm not saying that is definitely what was talked about. Again, like I've said all summer, all that I've mostly heard about is they've talked about, some strategy stuff, how they could look better together out there next season than they did last. But, Luka watched how much work LeBron puts into his body when he got to LA. And Luka sees how much work LeBron is probably putting in over the course of the summer to look that way again next year. And maybe it's coincidence. Maybe, Luka's team says it was always going to happen. Luka getting into better shape. But maybe, just maybe, he saw, LeBron doing that. And he sees how great LeBron still is at this stage of his career and says, well, maybe I could do that. But it starts with taking yourself more seriously off of the court. So, yeah, I think, with LeBron and his conversations with Luka, it probably starts with, dude, it starts with you. And this is what this fan base is going to expect of you. And if you fall short of expectations with this fan base, it can get ugly quickly. And I see this comment here from Omaris, right? Omaris saying, did you see D'Lo shitting on the Lakers? I'm not going to say the second half of that comment, but D'Lo is somebody who fell short of expectations twice with, in 2 different stints with the Lakers. And, we know how Lakers fans probably feel about him. So, and end of the day, if just for practicality's sake, beyond how good LeBron, I think, will still be at basketball next year, him being able to talk to Luka and walk him through in very explicit terms, this is what this fan base requires of its superstar, of the face of that franchise. And if that at all led to the body transformation we've seen from Luka this summer, if any of his relationship with LeBron led to, in any way whatsoever, the body transformation we've seen from Luka this summer, then that relationship right there has already paid dividends. Dodger Blue at Kmamba 11191. ESPN article says the Clippers can sign LeBron outright next summer. Would he do this and leave the Lakers? Any idea if Mark Walter has met with LeBron? I don't see LeBron playing with the Clippers. I just think one thing LeBron, like the one thing you can, well, one of the many things you can say about LeBron, but I think as great as LeBron is as a basketball player, that dude is that good and maybe even more at brand management. And I think he understands that if he leaves the Lakers, especially via free agency, and no longer across the hall, but walks down the freeway there to Inglewood and goes and plays for the Clippers, especially on a contract that the Lakers could have offered him, then that is not the kind of thing that Lakers fans will ever forget. And I've talked about it in the past. Lakers fans have supported Magic Johnson's projects to the tune of Magic being a billionaire. Kobe was a billionaire, or en route to being a billionaire if he wasn't one already. Shaq is close to being a billionaire at this point as well. Lakers fans have really supported Kareem over the years and all of his endeavors too. So, and look at like Steve Garvey with the Dodgers, and look at any number of these guys who that Lakers and or Dodgers or crossover fan base there in LA. You do not want to have that fan base hold a grudge on you forever. So LeBron's departure, however it happens, he's going to be very careful about it, and he's going to make sure that the Lakers fan base has no reason whatsoever to feel a certain way about him. And playing for the Clippers on a contract that the Lakers could have offered him, or playing for the Clippers on a contract that would have made it easier for him to win with the Lakers, that's the kind of thing that Lakers fans will shun that dude forever. And remember, he's trying to buy a team, an NBA team, and in all likelihood, the team that he'll eventually own will probably be there in Vegas. And if he owns a team in Vegas, he will be competing directly with Lakers fans. And if he wants any chance at making it with that Vegas expansion team, or if the New Orleans Pelicans move to the Vegas area, and a team that LeBron owns is competing directly with the Lakers and competing directly with Lakers fans, he won't like how that experience goes. I know how loud the Lakers fan base can get, whether it's in social, whether it's in revenue, all of those things. And I just don't see a world where LeBron plays for the Clippers. I don't see a world where he plays for the Clippers. There are several reasons why he would never play for the Celtics. I don't see him playing for the Warriors, even because of the Lakers-Dodgers connection and how much Dodgers fans hate the Bay. I think he's going to be really, really careful about how he leaves, whenever he leaves. And being careful does not involve playing for the Clippers. At Shazaho writes, would you say Ayton is arguably the most offensively talented big Luka has played with? Only player that rivals him, in his opinion, is Porzingis. And even he thinks Ayton is a better pick and roll player, while Porzingis is a better popper. Any thoughts on this? I've seen this take out there, and I can't quite get there right now. In terms of raw talent, yeah, that's fine. But unassumed talent is just unassumed talent. If Ayton doesn't put in the work consistently enough to be a better player than Kristaps Porzingis, it doesn't matter if he's more talented. Right? Like if a player is or if anybody, for that matter, in their field is incredibly talented, but doesn't put the work in consistently, or works hard enough consistently to make good on that talent, then that person may as well have not had that talent at all in the first place. I've seen plenty of people in my industry who are more talented than me. I haven't seen very many people who work harder than me, though. And as such, my stuff tends to grow. The people who have the most success here have a modicum of talent, and then also are willing to absolutely work themselves to madness to grow in this industry. Look at how much time Jovan spends in his Q&As. on top of, the writing that he's done over the years. Look at how hard Pete works on the videos, his highly edited videos when those release, and does a daily podcast and does stuff that you probably don't even know about. While, all of us tend to our own personal lives and try to balance that, and same goes for any number of your favorite people in this industry who have found a way to stick around. It takes probably a screw loose, but it takes a ridiculous amount of work and a stupid work ethic to even have a chance at this. And same goes for any number of industries out there, and the NBA is that and then some, given how much money is on the line. So like Ayton might be, in terms of raw talent, yeah, he might be there with Porzingis, but he also hasn't generated the results that Porzingis has. So, look, I believe in Ayton. I think Ayton's going to have a really good year this year. I say so for cynical reasons, but end of the day, I think the Lakers are going to benefit from having Ayton in their organization and on their team in a year where he is fighting, scratching, clawing, hopefully, to continue making more than the minimum or continue making more than exception type money moving forward. And maybe he's okay making exception type money. $13-ish million a year is pretty damn good. It's pretty damn good living. It's not 30. It's not 40. Luka's next contract after this 3-year extension, he'll be making $80 million a year. He's a singularly talented individual, and even he saw the immediate financial impact of maybe not working the way that the Mavericks thought he should have been these last few years. I think they were stupid to trade him, to be completely honest. But with Luka, falling further and further out of shape over the course of his career to this point, the Mavericks said, we're concerned that that's going to continue to slip while your paychecks are going to continue to grow. And they didn't feel comfortable with that. So there's a lot of money on the line, and I hope that Ayton makes good on that talent, and the Lakers are forced into a tough decision with him. But if I was just to answer the question, is he the most raw talented offensive big that Luka has played with? I would still probably go with Porzingis, but it's close. He's in that realm. He's a first overall pick, and I don't think he's a bust. So I could, in terms of his touch around the rim, his mid-range touch, the way that he punishes bigs, the fact that he can get above the rim. He doesn't get it as high above the rim anymore as he used to, but he can still get up there. I think he's an incredibly talented player, but unfortunately, it's been a lot of wasted talent to this point. So we'll see what next year looks like. At Tailored Score, can you give us a peek behind the curtain of the Clippers handle relations with the media / their propaganda machine? So the Clippers did this thing, and we've seen other teams do this, where the Clippers hired Lee Jenkins, and I forget what his official title is, but the thing with us here in the media is, we do this for long enough, and you build these friendships, you build these relationships, and eventually, I won't go so far as to say that like we do each other favors per se. There are the occasional favor, right? Hopping on somebody else's podcast, warning somebody about like a take or a report, stuff like, maybe not a report, but maybe a take, right? Helping inform them on that take. My buddy Sharks, Jonathan Sharks, while he was at The Ringer, RIP, man, I miss that dude. But he would call me when he was writing about the Lakers, and we would just talk for like an hour or so. and he would pick my brain about whatever it was he was getting to write. Sometimes he would tell me what he was getting to write. Other times he wouldn't. But we would just talk Lakers basketball. And we had a great friendship by the end of it. Again, I really miss that dude. And Lee, I have been in this industry for a fraction of the amount of time that Lee Jenkins was. And I am a fraction as talented as Lee Jenkins is. So I'm not going to go so far as to say that like this is why or whatever. This is an example of how they can kind of have their story told. But Lee has a bunch of friends, and if one of his closer friends in this industry is getting ready to rip the Clippers, maybe that friend will call up Lee and ask like, "Hey, what's going on here?" Get the Clipper side of the story, and that right there is going to make that analysis that much lighter of the Clippers. And that's not all of Lee's job, and I don't even know how much a percentage of it makes up. His big thing is storytelling, right? And that's why they hired him. And we've seen the Oklahoma City Thunder hire Royce Young. We've seen the Denver Nuggets. They hired a longtime beat reporter there as well. And the Lakers with their local TV station, right? They hired Mike Bresnahan, who was a longtime beat reporter covered that team. So these teams see the value in journalism, and they see the value in PR, and the smart ones do, and they try to manipulate that story as best they possibly can. It's really smart. That's one way to do it. Another way, look, we just saw it the other day with Daryl Morey, right? Where I made some jokes at his expense based off of the quote as I first read it. We spoke on the phone, and by speaking on the phone, I deleted those tweets and came on here and offered a clarification of what Morey meant with, I don't know if I can call him Daryl. I don't know. Text me, Daryl. Let me know what I should or shouldn't call you on the air. But like with him, that conversation, right? It makes me a little less interested in just skewering him, right? Because we now have a relationship there, right? So that's all part of PR, and that's one of the things that kind of drives me nuts about the Lakers is they always whine after the fact about some of my analysis, whether it's to me directly or indirectly, and I hear about it through the grapevine. They always whine to me about like, oh, where did he learn this? Well, how did he know this? What is meanwhile, it's like, Rob and I could just hop on a phone call and we could sort a lot of this out, and it would be like you would know. I wouldn't give up sources or anything like that, but I would be able to tell a fuller version of the story with more of the Lakers, half of it involved. But so long as they don't really have any interest in, especially like Rob has very little interest in speaking to those of us who covers this team on a day-to-day basis. And as such, it's like, all right, well, I still have to do my job. So I'm going to tell as full a version of a story as I possibly can, but it probably isn't going to be as nice to the Lakers as some of these stories are of the Clippers. Now, as far as like, some of the analysis, there are some, like, there's this weird sector of national media that like just refuse to do anything but give the Clippers the benefit of the doubt. And year in, year out, though, that sector of media just always overrates the Clippers. I can't speak to them, like flawed analysis is just that. It's just flawed analysis. So if you want to just like, one thing that happens a lot when we're talking about the Clippers or that sector of the media, when they talk about the Clippers, they look at everything just in terms of raw data. and they say, damn, this is a crazy deep roster just based off of what all of these teams or these players have done individually over the years. But basketball isn't baseball. It's not a combination of individual stat lines. It's jazz. And that sector of the media that refuses to consider basketball as jazz and not an orchestra, that's why they continue to overrate the Clippers. And look, it's some of my favorite bits. I love laughing at it. So please continue. At Move RSCE asks, would LeBron go back to Miami? Maybe. I don't know. He seems to love living in LA and he seems to love being close to family. He only has a year or two left. And is Miami any closer to a championship than the Lakers? They're probably closer to getting to, an NBA finals than the Lakers. I would grant you that because the East sucks, but you still got to go through a Milwaukee team that's better put together than you are. You still got to eventually go through, like it wouldn't happen this year. So after this year, Tyrese Halliburton is going to be healthy again. So then you would have to go through Indiana then. You would have to go through the Celtics with a healthy Jason Tatum again and a completely reset and re-solidified draft and asset cash there for a really good front office to work with. So, and then, New York is probably better than Miami, even with LeBron. So, for LeBron, if he's going to leave, it's going to be for a home run, I can win a championship here for sure type situation. Because of all I talked about before as it pertains to his relationship with Lakers fans after he retires. So could he go to Miami? We'll see. Is Pat Riley over the way that LeBron departed? We'll see. Is LeBron over the way that Pat Riley talked about LeBron after he left? We'll see. I'm kind of skeptical over all of that. Gregory Brown writes, do you think the Lakers trade those expirings before the season or at the deadline, or will Rob let them walk? I know he has a track record letting players walk. Slingshot to my head, I would probably say he trades them. Again, I think this team is going to be good. I think it'll be plenty good for the Lakers to really think long and hard about adding to this roster. Now, will Rob use that first round pick? That's, I think, a more pertinent question that I am less convinced about, but I do believe he'll use those expirings, and at the very least, he'll use those expirings for players that he thinks will actually help this season. Whether that player will also be on an expiring contract, I don't know, but I would be pretty surprised if Rob finished this season and just let Gabe Vincent walk and just let Maxi Kleber walk. There's no real benefit to them doing so, especially given that I do believe in this roster. So if this roster is as good as I think it is, and he lets those guys walk, then I'll have some analysis that the Lakers probably won't like, but won't have any say about because they don't like talking to young idiots like myself, even though I'm not young anymore. All right, let's go through here. Let's see. Anthony called Daryl, but there wasn't a ring. Let's see. No, technically, Daryl called me. Technically, Maury called me. He asked for my number, and I gave it to him, and he called me. So he had to wait for 17 rings to talk. No, all right, that is going to do it here on that terrible joke. That is going to do it here for this episode of the Lakers Lounge podcast, super mega post vacation mailbag. Thank you everybody for the questions. I answered all of the questions from Twitter. I didn't see any actual questions, just mostly kind of yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I didn't see any actual questions here from the live audience. So mostly just comments that I responded to over the course of the show. But yeah, that is going to do it though. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Thank you everybody for subscribing. And if you haven't, please change that. Thank you everybody for hitting the like button. If you haven't, please change that. And until the next time you guys hear from me, I'm Anthony Irwin saying, have a great rest of your day. Okay, right at the end. R. Jones with the welcome back, Anthony. Thank you very much. Means I get to play this. And on that note, I will peace out. Have a great rest of your day. Make somebody else's. And I will talk to you tomorrow. Have a good one, everybody.